Welcome back to my animal education series. So instead of doing a solo video today, I thought I'd give you guys a tour of the River's Edge portion of the St. Louis Zoo. This has the Asian portion, the African portion, and the South American portion. So it has all kinds of different animals, so let's go see what's out. Now I'm going to start off by going into the South American portion of River's Edge. And one thing I really like is how brilliantly planted the entire area is. Especially at the area where you first walk in. There's tons of water features everywhere. There's vines on this wall back here. And just kind of walking through the forest, I think that's super cool. These fake trees here, during the summer, will actually have like parrots and macaws sitting on them. And I just think it's super cool because I never expected them to be there. And I walk around the corner, there's all these brilliantly colored birds. And as I mentioned with the water features, I'm a big fan of water features because it just adds a whole different characteristic and more like depth to the whole area. So I know in the African portion they also have a stream that goes down next to the train tracks. I just think that's super cool how they have all this stuff going on along with the animals. Behind me we have an Andean bear. And he once was right behind the log eating some leaves, and he just got up and moved completely out of sight. But I never usually see this bear when I come here, and usually when I do, he's sleeping in his cave over there. So it's kind of cool to see him like out and about. And it's not super warm out today, it's probably like in the mid-50s, so he's probably just enjoying these cooler temperatures. Oh, here he is again. Again, I never see this bear, so I definitely want to take my opportunity and my time to see it. Also, these guys are a lot smaller than black bears as well. Now let's see if we can take a look at the capybara. I really like capybaras, but I'm not exactly sure how cold tolerant they are from the regions in South America. But oh, this made my day a whole lot better. So the capybara is the world's largest rodent, and it's actually like a semi-aquatic species. Like they have slight webbing in their feet, which helps them kind of swim around. And they spend a lot of their time in the water and in large family groups. These guys are always getting snacked on by caimans and jaguars, but I just think they're super bizarre and really cool looking animal. Now we're here in the African portion of River's Edge, and the first animal that you run into here is the black rhino. A lot of zoos that I've personally seen have the white rhino, so it's kind of cool to see the different variety of the black rhino. The main differences in between the two is the slight coloration that you can't tell between individuals, but the white rhino has a wider lip. Because of a translation error, which instead of the wide rhino for the wide lip, it translated to white somehow. But then here we have the black rhino, which has a much more pointed lip for grasping. The white rhino is more of a grazer, while these guys kind of pull on branches and stuff and eat the leaves off of that. So she's on back there. I believe it's a female, but I'm not 100% on that. But he or she is just back there. That's where they usually are. So a big group usually accumulates where we're standing right now. And we actually got really lucky on timing. There's no people here. So it gives us plenty of opportunities to film. Let's go ahead and move on to the next animal. We just passed the panda dog enclosure, and unfortunately there's no panda dogs out right now. They're probably hiding out behind their main cave where it's a lot more sunny and they can get warmed up. But over here, we have an animal that shares the enclosure with the black rhino, which is the sacred ibis. And as I was telling you guys about earlier, here in the African portion there's a lot more water features, and this enclosure is no exception. So the ibises are like hanging out here, and it kind of have like the one enclosure view of the black rhino, which they could come over here, but this primarily spends a lot of their time over there. But I just love this water feature every time. I always look at it. Let's move on now. Behind me now I have the red river hog, which is also an amazingly kind of ugly species of animal. But you guys might remember I did an interview on these guys at the Cincinnati Zoo, and before the interview I kind of understood the animal and what they're about, but after the interview I really had a whole different appreciation for the animal and being able to interact with the red river hog. So up next we have the hippos, but we gotta kind of walk away slowly and film it in here because there are people down there and I don't want to be safe and like wear my mask when I'm actually around people. But the hippos is usually a super like busy area of the zoo. So if you have the opportunity to see the hippos and all the fish in there, it's super cool. They have a nice heated pool that helps keep them warm all year long. And I don't take a whole lot of time to look at it a lot of times because there are typically a lot of people, especially pre-COVID, there was just a lot of people. But I just usually take a glance past, but since there are not a whole lot of people, but there still are people, I'm gonna take a look at the hippos. Over here we have the spotted hyena, which is another animal that's usually sleeping when I come here in the heat of the day, but now it's not that hot out, and these guys are super active. I think these are super interesting animals and just how they hunt and how they work together as a pack. I just think that's really interesting. So when they're out and about and active, whenever I visit in the fall, early spring, and the winter, I just always make sure I see these guys. So behind us now we have the dwarf mongoose and the cheetah enclosure. The cheetah enclosure is actually quite large. It has 3 separate viewing areas. And with the mongoose enclosure here, they kind of do what I noticed at the Columbus Zoo and at Animal Kingdom, is they have the rock decorations there to kind of separate the enclosures, but it kind of blends together into one. I think that's super interesting. And they also have the nice water feature here that helps separate the mongoose from the people. Last and definitely not least, we have the Asian portion of River's Edge. And it's a big bummer because now with COVID, they're blocking off a lot of the stuff. And they're keeping my best friend, my king cobra friend over here. I have not named him. He doesn't have a name as far as I know. But I can't give him the hug that I used to do every single time I came here. I don't know why, but my mom would always take a picture of me and the king cobra and post it on Facebook with me and my friend. I can't do that now. I apologize for the train noise in the background, but we finally have no people here and it's a good time to film. So behind us here we have the Asian elephants, which are very different from their African counterparts, the African elephant. The main difference is how big their ears are and the lack of a really large tusk, and just the overall size is a lot smaller. So these guys are always a big attraction here at the St. Louis Zoo. I think they have like 3 or 4 viewing points because the enclosure is huge, and these guys are just always big hits because people love elephants, and that's for good reason. They're super awesome animals. But let's move on down to the Asiatic black bear, and let's hope there's not a whole lot of people there, and he can enjoy these cooler temperatures. But just taking a moment to look at the elephants is super cool. So I was incorrect, it is not an Asiatic black bear, it's actually a sun bear. And he was super active in enjoying these cooler temperatures, but unfortunately the sun was just right and there was a water grime on the glass, so it just created this awful glare. And we could kind of see like just a little bit of him climbing the trees and going across the branches and stuff, but we could not get a clip on the camera. I'm kind of bummed about that, but at least we got to see the sun bear out and about. So let's see if we can take a look at more elephants. As I was talking about earlier with all the water features, obviously there's a big one here. And on multiple occasions I've seen the elephants come into the big pool here and swim around. I have a couple videos on my phone of that. I can see if I can send it to my dad to put it in. But it's just super cool to see these guys. And as we wrap up this River's Edge tour, we're passing by more water features, and we're going into this awesome cave here where they have a big old fish tank with some native species of fish. And I wanted to thank you guys for coming along with me as I showed you guys River's Edge. We've tried to do this before, but we went so early in the morning that none of the animals were even out yet. So that didn't work out, obviously. But thank you guys so much for coming along on the tour. And as always, don't forget to leave a big thumbs up down below, subscribe to my channel, and as always, I'll see you next week.